Here we are with memes of destruction. I'm
Oh no! Oh no! I apologize. There we. Hey guys, what's going on? Memes here.
what's
You've caught
wrong?
me off guard.
You
Roy
caught
is right. You
me.
are a crafty one.
Yeah.
What's going on,
Um,
my dude?
it's everything's good. Everything's good. Like I said, I'm excited, and yeah, I wanted to. Normally, I have a little bit of a plan, but because you're so free form and you kind of you rap in a way. Like I said earlier, I think you're like a. It's almost like poetry. So I was thinking, let's just build off of each
Let's
other a little bit.
let's just do it. Let's treat it more like a Socratic dialogue, if you will. It's like, here's an idea. I'm not necessarily going to try to say you're wrong for all these reasons and stuff. If I disagree, I disagree, and I just give critique. It's like you can. I thought one of the colloquial definitions of an enlightened mind was, I don't know, being able to entertain an idea with not necessarily believing it. Now, is that always the case? I have no idea. That's why I talk to folks like you.
Yeah, I recently saw like a meme. No, it wasn't a meme, but almost a meme. It was like a quote, and it was a philosopher who said that you know a sign of maturity is when someone can objectively uh, hear someone else's idea that they disagree with and not get emotional in a way.
Well,
Um,
I mean, emotion is part of like who we are as human beings. I think most folks tend to feel emotion and stuff. But its thoughts and actions are different. And then if we all make mistakes, so it's how you handle a mistake is what defines you.
Yeah, no, but you're right. It's completely natural, but I think that's what maturity is about, right? Like over time, then like it is a natural thing to also become mature. And by maturity here, I mean like when you hear someone's idea, if you don't react anymore with like anger or annoyance, that you can just hear an idea that you disagree with and be completely level-headed. That seems to be, I don't know. To me, that seems to be the goal. That should be the way it is.
See, I tend to think that, at least for me, is a side effect of spending far too much time on the internet and doing a lot of drugs. Just my opinion. I'm not a doctor.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so like you seem to take that to a whole other level where it's not just that you don't react negatively or with anger to other people's ideas. You're curious about other people's ideas and you explore them with like with a kind of tact and motivation that seems to inspire and motivate others to make their ideas more clear and especially the community that we're a part of, we're people that have strange ideas, and here you are making it cool. So I'm just curious, like, what got you started? Because I still don't know what your channel is about. I watch it, and you got all this kind of crazy stuff, and it's great, and you explore all these ideas. And then it's like just a panoply of different things of different people who could be interested from different facets, mathematicians and physicists and philosophers and just weirdos and oddballs and so it's really cool. And how did you get to create this channel? Like, what was the motivation for it?
Well, we're going to have to go back in time. I may or may not take a clip from this and insert a Time Wizard meme or something from the Duel Monsters game Yu-Gi-Oh! But all I'm saying is, let me make sure I have actual cancellation. Uh, but essentially, I went back and I had a channel, and I was going to resurrect that channel. I had originally used it for workout videos back in the day, and then I forgot that password for like a decade. So since I was locked out of my YouTube account and there was no easy way to get back, it's like, okay, well, let me create a channel because I'd been following a lot of the political stuff for a while then, and I get tired of like yelling at the screen. So I'm like, let me interact. Let me be able to type vigorously like a crazy person and interact with the people that are on this screen. Um, so I found different communities, if you would, and I was on what I would characterize as more of a darker, a much more edgier side of YouTube. That was my entrance into it, was some different groups that were varying degrees of life experience and everything like that. And it's like ultimately just over the course of a long time on the internet, having public and private conversations with people, you tend to find once you hear a person's story, you might not always agree with what they did, but you kind of get the gist of why they did it. So I personally think most folks are good people. Just a gut feeling. I could be wrong about that, but I think if most folks are good people, and you realize we all do, pardon my French, stupid shit. My apologies to the French. Is that yeah, we all make mistakes, but you combine that with folks tend to act in their own self interest. I feel that explains a lot. So I kind of go in there with that perspective of, yeah, we're all more similar than we are different, but we do each have our own unique life experience. So I go in there with kind of that lens, if you would, and I'm like, all right, let me ask questions, because very often I feel I have a parable. I call it universal truth number 6. Our minds tend towards the worst place. I feel like that might just be a natural adaptive skill that as human beings we've developed over the years. If something might be a threat, oh my God, we have to be on alert. We have to be ready. Because, like, if all of a sudden you're a mouse and you're just kind of chilling and there's a cat kind of marking its territory right next to you on the other side of the tree, you may want to go and hide, or you might not be mousing much longer. I mean, that's kind of how I view it there. Um, and also, I am curious because one of the things I usually pop into, maybe this is a hyperbolic statement, maybe just this is how things worked out, but I'm always like, hey guys, what's going on? I have no idea what's going on. That could be taken as a very superficial statement, if you would. What's generically people are talking about? What is the topic? Or you could boil it right down to what is actually going on. What are the geometric actions that are actually defining this realm of persistence that we appear to be in right now, discussing on the internet?
Hmm. Okay,
I
so
don't know.
I just really quickly want to circle back to the French statement. On behalf of the French, we accept your apology. And
Oh, I didn't know you were president of the Internet of France. Cool.
oui, oui, mon ami, je suis français, francophone, let's say.
Oh, I don't
Uh,
speak French.
it's and so okay. That I want to also kind of hold your feet to the fire and try to get you to explain a little bit how the channel itself came about. But thanks for answering the very first question as to like why it is that you're interested in people's ideas and why you think people's ideas are or that people are triggered
Keep
in that
me
way.
on task. I will go on so many different tangents that I don't even remember where I was at.
No, but I mean, you were really concise there. You actually answered the very first question, and but that's what I like about you. That's what I was saying. Like it's very poetic, and you just go free form, and then you come up with physical examples, like the cat and the mouse right there, and I love that. But at the same time, I think that's what makes it kind of fun. Is that for me, I like to keep things on track a little bit, and so but I
To
want to see
answer your
this.
question, the algorithm doesn't know what my channel is about because I literally a lot of political commentary. When the pandemic hit, I was covering different presidential briefings for like 2 months. It drained my soul and everything, and then I basically to actually answer your one of the other questions was that I basically came across Dr. Eric Weinstein on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he was talking about like spinners and stuff. These barcode, and then he go around twice going outside doing this crazy wine dance thing with his arm, and I'm like, this is totally fascinating. That and the picture of the hot vibration that he showed, oh, that was beautiful. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I started kind of getting into like following his some of his stuff, and I found like PBS Space Time, Dr. Eric Weinstein was going on, and then I came across Professor Brian Keating, the Nick Fury of the physics community, in my opinion, and that he was bringing a bunch of different a lot of different folks within the community because he's the Chancellor's Distinguished Professor of Physics at the University of San Diego. I was fortunate enough to actually sit upon one of his graduate level physics courses. And yeah, it was a graduate level physics course. I'm like, I don't understand what any of this stuff is, but I'm like, all right, we got some stuff. They're doing things. I could put some of this notation into Wolfram Alpha and circle back about forward a year or so. It's like, if I start to listen to lectures like that, do I still know what's going on? No, but I feel like I have a little bit of a better approximation. So I try to learn from different folks. Okay, I will actually finish answering your question now, James. I'm sorry for that tangent,
No
but
problem.
basically, I came across these folks and basically branching out like many folks within different communities. You see different folks on different people's channels, their live streams, a reference to their work. Somebody brings something up. You reach out to some different folks, and then basically, I'm like, oh, look, Theories of Everything community. I'm like, I put things on Kurt. Full disclosure, I am one of Kurt's patrons. I have given Kurt money. This is confirmed. But at the same time, even before I was a member of his Patreon or anything, it's like, oh, I put a decent question down there, and he would actually actively respond and stuff. And that's hard to do on scale. I have hard enough time as like not even at like 1,000 folks on this particular platform. It's like it's tough to do, especially if you're by yourself. And even when you have a team, it's difficult as well because you're trying to grow, you're responsible for other people's livelihoods. But to actually finish off on your question, James, science was my safe space. So it's like, okay, let me learn about a bunch of these things that I'm curious about. And by a happy coincidence of circumstances, I met folks like you. I met a bunch of other folks that at least have inspired me to do different things. And at one point, oh, hey, now I'm part of a monastery. I joined the physics monastery think tank. So much of the content I put out there occasionally can be trolly, can be kind of like maybe a little bit edgy, maybe kind of very memeable because I think science is fun. So it's like, well, if science is fun and cool, why wouldn't we have fun doing it? Because as much as I might like Dr. Eric Weinstein or somebody from the Advanced Institute for Study, it's like going and be like, all right, so we have the Lagrangian here, and you're putting it down. We have this notation, this notation. That's totally cool. And that's shown us that math can actually help model reality. And I don't think it really needed to be that way, but apparently it seems to be that way. There might be reasons for that. We could potentially get into at some point here. Again, I'm not a professionally trained physicist. I don't have a PhD in mathematics. I'm a dude on the internet that's had the privilege of talking to a lot of really smart folks like yourself.
Okay, so that's a pretty good segue. First off, it seems like you're saying, if I can reiterate for you, that your channel is a reflection of who you are, and who you seem to be is a person with unbounded curiosity. And so that's to me interesting.
I'm a big kid.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big kid. I like that.
That's why I'm wearing sunglasses and a bandana. So I mean, hey.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Huggies commercials. I'm a big kid now.
I'm a big kid now. Nobody clipped that.
So you're a millennial, that's for sure. If you got that reference there. What's the normally you have a level up shirt? So is that the actual level up?
You caught me. No, you caught me. I was going to bring this up earlier. As we had in private Whisper Network conversations, I was doing laundry. I am still in the process of doing laundry, and full disclosure, I actually panicked about 5 minutes before I popped onto this into the link here because I'm like, wait a second, my yellow level up shirt is in the wash. I literally only have one of those shirts. I use the white undershirt because I can change the white undershirt, and basically it adds like a sweat barrier, so I don't need to clean it as much. So it can stay out of the laundry for longer than normal. That was done. And I'm like, oh my god! I threw all my other. This was the first print of the T-shirt of everything, because the model, the HF8 or the minimal arena model that I came across that Thad Roberts and the Physics Monastery had been putting out. This was something that I came across by happenstance, and I remember I've heard was it Professor Michio Kaku? He's one of fathers of string theory, and he says somewhere there exists an equation. I think he wrote a book called The God Equation or whatever that might be. It can be written as less than an inch long. You could put it on a T-shirt, and it would provide insight into the fabric of the mind of God or something like that. So I'm like, okay, now I don't know about a God equation, but all I know is when I type this equation into like Wolfram Alpha, it basically, when you square the first answer, it gives you the fine structure constant to uncontroversial digits. At least the answers on Wolfram Alpha, there are experiments that, full disclosure, totally support it. And there have been some more recent experience, and again, they're going to try to confirm those, that would disprove this as well, or at least say it's something different. So that's totally fine. You got to go with the data that you have to the best of our approximations, at least if you're trying to operate in the realm of physics as we know it. But I'm like, okay, well, if I can do that and I can reverse engineer geometrically like the 44 constants of nature here, and it gets it within like the margin of error, I mean, I don't know. That seems pretty cool. I think I'll put it on a T-shirt. So I printed some of these T-shirts.
So just to explain for people who might not know, I remember that documentary where Michio Kaku talks about that 1 inch equation, and that you would see into the
this is larger than 1 inch. It might be a 1 inch on the screen, but that might be relative to the observer.
But also I think, insofar as what I know about the fine structure constant, is that it's kind of arbitrary. Like there could be an infinite amount of fine structure constants, and for some reason this is the number, or the fine structure constant that we kind of are stuck with, and the question is, why this one? Is that right, or am I
First off, technically the fine structure constant isn't constant, because if you rewind to like quote unquote the Big Bang or high enough temperature, basically it would actually be 1, apparently. So it is one of those things where I think it was Professor Feynman, kind of to paraphrase him, was like, this dang number is everywhere. It's like the strength of the electromagnetic coupling of the electromagnetic force. It's that, and then when you do it again, it's it ends up being the distance between the 2 radii of the electron. Why does an electron have 2 radii? It's like, all right, these are all these different questions, but it seems to come up a lot. A lot of folks, they pitch it as that 1/137, because that comes out to about the fine structure constant-ish. It's actually like, was it 137.035999 or something like that, with 1 over it. But basically this comes out to, and the thing is that would be kind of cool in and of itself, but you can end up, there are plenty of ways to derive it. Like you just go on Wikipedia, you can do these different constants, you'll basically get to a whole bunch of the numbers. The big thing with this that I've taken away, and I'm skipping ahead a little, James, I'm sorry, is this literally, you just type over like 1 over x plus x cubed, so a larger volume. You divide that by 2 pi, so that's a circle. That's a big twist one way. You set it to literally the imaginary number I, raise it to itself, and you raise that by a negative pi divide by 2. So you got the inverse of that right there. So it's a smaller twist. But the thing is, that went to like 7 significant digits, but we know the fine structure constant better than that. The particular number that you had to set it to use as a lambda for this happened to be the Planck mass. Basically, it should actually be, rather than boundary, it's the mass gap. So if you see some of those different conical things where they'll have like a cone going like up and down, and its ends like -1, +1, and 0 in the center. Basically, there may actually be a 0 point. Again, that's a lot farther ahead, but there's more of a gap there. And so that gap is basically where, to the best of my knowledge, I conjecture the electromagnetic boundary wraps around. So that appears to be what this is saying with this equation. The whole reason why I basically listen to any of this is I came across a video because I was actually trolling Professor Keating and the Wolfram Physics Project a little bit, because I'm like, these people talk to each other. They haven't talked to each other in a while. I feel like they should know what the other is talking about. So I kind of put some music to it and everything, and we were talking about fifth forces and stuff. And then I got a comment, and somebody was tagged in a Twitter post. So I'm like, all right, one of my friends on the internet, Nolan, he's like, oh yeah, you should add some hip hop and Thad Roberts. So I mouse over on Twitter. I'm like, oh, this gentleman's a theoretical physicist. I like that stuff. Follow. And then one day I'm out for a run. I'm just open up Twitter. I see a tweet. It's like, it's happening. I'm like, that's a cool geometric object. Let me click on this. This is that physics guy. I click in, pop in like 12, 14 minutes into the stream. I'm just listening. I'm like, I'm hearing about platonic solids and a whole bunch of numbers and everything. A lot of strong claims. And I'm like, that's cool. If half the stuff this guy claims is accurate, this sounds revolutionary. But I take it with a grain of salt, James, because I'm like, just a random dude on the internet. I am a random dude on the internet. So take it all in stride. And a little over 12 hours later, I'm at work, and they released the muon G2 results. That big hubbub from 2021. It's like, new physics. Oh, something outside the standard model prediction. It's like, okay, I'm listening. One of the gentlemen was like, this is our Mars lander rover moment. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but it sounds important. Okay. So I'm listening to him. I'm like, that's cool. So I tweeted that. I'm like, I don't know if you went over this, but does this help your model? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay. So I go home, I go into the Fermilab website, I look at the results. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I go back to the video that premiered the day before that I was listening to while I was on a run. I'm like, dude, man nailed it. He predicted the Muon G2 results. So that's when I started paying attention, conversed with him, had him on my channel twice. Um, because it's like some of the stuff, it's like a lot of it was beyond me. And I've learned a lot over the past couple of years so far. And
Mhm.
I didn't even know I could do some of this stuff. It's pretty, I mean, that's what really gets me. That's why I'm excited. I'm like, oh my God, if an old fogey like me can start to learn some of this stuff, imagine what the next generation can do. So, and again, I'm assuming if this is true, it's totally in my self interest and everything. But ultimately, it's like if you got the numbers, you still got to interpret the numbers. And if it's a more simple model than a lot of other things, it's like, okay, if I can use like mostly high school maths and like Wolfram Alpha to do this stuff, like that, I don't know, that could give purpose to other people. And again, it's up to them. I'm preaching
Yes.
to nobody.
So that is your equation then?
This is not my equation. This
No?
is my friend Thad from the Physics Monastery's equation here.
Oh,
I
okay.
just made the shirt.
Ah, I see. Okay.
I didn't
Um,
make the shirt. I created the shirt on the Teespring or whatever, and then had them send it to me after I bought it.
but it's definitely an equation that has meaning to you.
Hmm.
Okay. And so just because we're on the topic of, you, I'm curious about the background as well. Can you give us the story behind that?
Oh, you noticed my Ouroboros. You're on to me. Okay, well, as far as this goes, this was like the first piece of like fan art that I'd actually paid for. So I'd showed them my other little avatar. It's basically an inverse of a
Mhm.
probably Google image Blue Eyes Toon Dragon, because I'm a scaly, so scaly subject to furry, yada yada yada. It's like, all right, so I'm a scaly. Well, I have blue eyes, pretty white. I like dragons. I'm like, okay, I like this. I also wanted Ninja from some other groups that may have used it as their avatar, so I claimed it first on the internet. So that's canon. Um, but so I did that and I submitted. I'm like, could you do this combined with kind of like an Ouroboros thing? And this is what they came back with. I'm like, this was pretty cool. So I use it as my background. You can infer all types of meaning. I usually just like it because it's a cool dragon.
Yeah, I think the Ouroboros has quite a bit of meaning in and of itself, in many different ways. But I like the idea that you've connected it to some kind of something meaningful to your own identity. And
That's why I loved your last interview. I had finished listening to it. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so great. I want to be one of those 12 people.
uh,
See, I almost wonder if that's Tyler's experiment. I haven't gone through and finished your Tyler video yet, but
yeah. Okay, well, that's a good segue into the next thing. So next week, as you know, I want to do like an interview with you, Brandon, Daniel, Roy, Lucy, and Tyler. And really, what happened with Tyler a few weeks ago is we were discussing like theories of everything and what would satisfy a theory of everything, and I put it next to the unity theory that I started a couple of months ago. And I was just thinking, like, how do I categorize all the guests that I'm going to have on next week into these theory types? And I realized, yeah, like it's pretty well balanced. So, and then you happen to be an interesting kind of piece or an ingredient in this. So, if you permit, I'll just share my screen here and show you what I'm talking about. Share screen. Just this page. Cool. Do you see what I'm talking about?
mm,
All right. So there's there's basically four types of theories according to what I believe, what I've seemed to have discovered. The first one is identitarian. So I've noticed that Roy and Lucy they discuss reality from a very very neutral place. Like it's so simplified that they're trying to escape even the number one, right? They just want to get to an identity of God. Like we could just stop right there and say God or energy, and that's the ultimate truth. That's the ultimate theory of everything. But of course, we are human beings, and there's some complexity to us. So we always go a bit further. Like, okay, well, tell me what God is. We want proof right away. And that's where Tyler and I come in, because we had discussed like, okay, so it seems like a theory of everything would require 6 different things that we would have to fulfill. Those 6 things would be the what, so what we're talking about, the who, that's the identity part of it, right? That those seem to go together. Then the how does reality manifest itself, or how does it exist? How does it work or emerge? And then the where and the when, because that's space time, that's the construct we have to work with, that's the level that we're on. And then the why, a reason for all of it. So those 6 things seem to be something that we try to address in every theory type that there is. And there are 4 types that I've identified. The first is identitarian, which what I was just talking about. So it describes the ultimate identity, or what reality is. Then you have functional, which describes the how, so how it emerges. And then you have predictive, which describes the patterns. So that's where science would come in, more physics-based things like patterns, mathematics, geometry, that sort of thing. And of course, I think physics-based theories also have some functional components to them. Like every theory type seems to have every other type within itself a little bit, but I think like the base is predictive when it comes to science. And then you have complete, which is just a self-description of all of those 3 types. That would really be the unity theory. So then I was thinking about this, the chat that I want to start next week, and I was saying, okay, Roy and Lucy are definitely in the identitarian category. Then you have Brandon and I, which are like functional. We try to talk about metaphysics a lot, and the interface between metaphysics and physics. And you quite as well, I believe, might have a lot of functional theories in your brain percolating, because you're quite open-minded. You're very science-based, like you said, but you're also so open-minded for consciousness-based theories, as well as the idea of physics being something that can be more than just physical in a way. I don't know. You seem to have that down. And then of course the predictive would be like Tyler Goldstein's and Daniel Varga's theories. They really start to show the patterns of like levels and castes and that sort of thing. And so I was trying to get to this complete here. The complete is a combination of all of those 3, and it's a self-description, right? And so, but for that to happen, it requires someone who's willing to play on the physics side of things and understand the metaphysics side of things. Not subscribe to all of them, but at the same time use elements and combine all of them. And you're so surfing the wave of this community, and I was just wondering like what you thought about that. Do you think that that you have a larger role to play in this theory of everything community? Because right now, you know, you've really just been interviewing a lot of people, and that's why I want to interview you and say, okay, look, what role are you actually playing here? It seems to be more important than just interviewing us and trying to soak in information. I think you are thinking a lot. You are doing maths and investigating things for yourself. So
First, congratulations, James, on being what I would characterize as a reality-based journalist. You were asking the W5 questions plus H. That's very powerful, and I totally watched that Nick series with Linda Ellerby as a kid. But no, I don't know what's going on. That's why it's like I have plenty of parables. It's like, yeah, we never know where a good idea may come from. It's like, okay, if I'm going to say that, if I'm going to believe the BS that comes out of my own mouth, why don't I actually entertain that idea and listen to people? And some folks might say, oh, the person you're talking to is crazy. It's like, okay, well, I look back at history, and a lot of the ideas that came up that we tout as, oh, it's just common knowledge nowadays. It's like a lot of people back in the day said this person was crazy. And all too often, you'd have some of these great thinkers and idea creators die penniless and alone. And like 50 years after the death, somebody just comes across a random paper like, this is a fantastic idea. We may also have the significantly advanced technology to actually show that that is the case at that point. And I feel like we feel that maybe an idea, well, this can't be true because we can't detect it. It's like, well, will we ever be able to detect it? Can we produce a Duncan experiment or whatever you want to call it? It's like just a mind experiment. Does this logically hold? is there a reason within our realm of reality that it doesn't hold? And there might be, because at least within different. Oh, sorry. I'm going to I was getting ready to go off on a tangent. I apologize. We have limited time, but my big thing is I just kind of like want to bring folks together because your last interview with Brandon, I thought it was excellent because one of his observations, I'm going to need to have him and Lucy on, um, was that a lot of times with different communities, it's like, in my experience too, I'm totally injecting here, is you always have a different group or community, and then at some point or another, intentional or not, somebody says something, somebody does something, it's beyond the pale at that point, and there's a fracturing, and then you see that I may or may not be part of some of the communities that he was referencing, and totally observed that myself. Um, but you see that, and a lot of times folks would come back, and you see that thing happens, and it's like, what happens if we got past like the standard drama? Because drama totally sells, because that's one of the paradigms on the internet right now. What gets attention? It's like a sensible discussion about consciousness within your everyday life and a detailed analysis of yada yada yada, or celebrity A you hate had something terrible happen to them that you totally love to hear happen. I mean, it seems like a simple equation, and I'm totally guilty of this. I like a cool, snappy thumbnail. It's like, why would I deny that? It's like, to deny who you are. It's just like, that sounds like you're just trying to build an identity built on lies. And anything built on lies, I mean, it's not going to hold compared to something with a stable foundation, right? But just be honest with people and learn as I go, and try to be like, maybe you
Yeah,
should talk to this person. This sounds similar. Sorry.
but no, but sorry to interject, but see, what you're talking about is precisely why I'm interested in trying to, let's say, render something concrete about what kind of utility you seem to bring to the table. And there are some people that are working on their ideas. There are some people who are participating in the drama, as you say, so right. They're just there to like have fun and riff off of each other, or maybe not have fun and really just let each
I
other.
wouldn't necessarily say drama for drama's sake. I think
Yeah,
people want to have fun, because that's one of the things about the internet we can't
yeah.
forget. Why are a lot of us here? We want to have fun. I mean, let's not forget, as far as the internet and science goes, the
Yeah.
internet brought us the SS Bodie McBoatface. Why? Because we can. And it's lighthearted. It's something you have fun. People are like, the Bodie McBoatface, it's a science vessel that explores like the South Pole or something. It's like, cool, literally.
Yeah, but
I'm a cheerleader.
sometimes drama is fun for some people, right? Like the negative drama.
Where's the line, though? Where's the line? Because I like good
Exactly.
banter and everything, but this is why I apologize a lot, because a lot of crazy things come out of my mouth, and since I'm aware that crazy things come out of my mouth, that's why it's like, just be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology. It's like, why? Is this the biggest thing in the world? You can make it the biggest thing in the world. You'll probably get a quick shot of dopamine because I am the good. I am the good defeating the bad. But
Yeah,
is the person actually bad, or did they maybe just have a bad day and you caught them up in something and they didn't respond optimally? I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah. No, I was referring more to the people who are like intentionally trying to be provocative, and maybe they're
You
trolling.
got to accept that that's a thing, and trolling is relative. And I say this as a troll because
There's nothing bad in
maybe,
trolling.
no. I got to acknowledge my own self identity here on the internet. It's like, with a name like the Memes of Destruction,
Yeah,
maybe this is why I don't get as much drama as I totally probably should earn. Is, if I'm gonna make a video about somebody, people tend to be smart. They know what they know often well, but when
yeah,
confirmed with something they're unfamiliar with, they often just go with what people they know and trust are saying. But
yeah.
with a name like the Memes of Destruction, my initial thought would be like, this is a troll and or edge lord or edgy boy or something like that. It's like, okay, but if somebody with that name says something reasonably sensible that many people would agree with, it's kind of breaking the conditioning, if you would, in that it's like, okay, you can be somebody with like a cartoon avatar on the internet and maybe not trying to destroy everybody, maybe actually trying to provide some form of a unifying message. I think that's what we need more of, because I notice a lot of people kind of doing the opposite, like being more decisive, divisive, and just demonizing people as evil and everything. And I'm like, this isn't going to lead to anywhere good. I mean, at that point, I'm going to have to meme legalizing dueling back into existence, because I think
That's,
that would solve a lot of problems. It's a horrible idea. I don't want to have to do it, but I'll totally do it, because I thought a long time. about how you could bring people together, how you could unify them without a common enemy. James, I tried. I couldn't find a solution. I'm like,
Well,
even if you have like an all gone.
I think so. Not to get too digressive, because I do have a specific question to ask, but I think it's a very appealing name, the Memes of Destruction. And then when people see your content, as far as I've seen, you're not actually creating anything divisive. In fact, you're bringing people together, and maybe there's something appealing in destruction. And what is it that we are destroying? Not necessarily other people. It could just be that, yeah, destroying divisiveness
Not
itself.
the current meta.
Yeah, exactly.
The current way, because if you look at a lot of it, it's like I could assume people are evil,
Yeah.
or I could just assume that don't hate the player, hate the game. What's the current game? What gets traction? What's heavy in the algorithms? Drama. If that's the thing, if that's how people come on up, and people see a lot of the folks that they like and respect doing that, and it's like, oh my god, I would like to be able to do my life doing stuff like that. But I was the same way. I'm like, I watched a lot of folks in these communities, and then I saw what kept getting selected for just it didn't seem to be going in a great direction. So I'm like, what if I did the opposite?
So it's coming to my mind now. There's two things that you seem to be operating, which is interesting. And I was just trying to figure out, like, why are you appealing and why are you such a part of this community, and that it's serving a utility. And there's two things. So one of the things was what we were talking about earlier, like people create their own ideas in this community. They have their own theories, but you seem to serve a lot of the theories. You're like super open and you try to take. So I think it's kind of like someone creating the banana sundae, or like a group of people creating the banana sundae, and then you come along and you just put the cherry on top. So you'll always be like grabbing the information that you can. I think it's necessary. People like you are required, because it ultimately, in my view, a theory of everything would just be ongoing. There was always going to be something to add on, and as Roy would put it, though, all of that stuff is useless and you could just sit in the potential, and there's the conclusion. But there's two conclusions in my view. That's where you just keep having fun and you keep adding on and stuff, and that seems to be what you're doing, by taking all the information you can, and then you can put an idea, and then someone else comes along and does the same thing and tops your idea, and so on. But in order to do that, so that we are constructive and not trying to reach or continue the theory of everything in a divisive manner, in a way that we can't extract utility or morality or fun or beauty or whatever you want out of it, it requires a way or a method or a behavior or a worldview that you are practicing and embodying, right? Like you said, like, what is it that can we hate together? What is it can we destroy together? That's the question. What are we destroying with the memes? And it seems to be. Can you reiterate what it is that we're destroying? You seem to have talked about the game. We're destroying the game.
Just the current paradigm and the incentives, because it's like, okay, even people that I see doing things that I disagree with, I'm like, well, I mean, because like somebody will say something, and then somebody like they'll start doing a stream about how this is a bad person for whatever reason. Did the person earn that? I don't know. And then I literally just tweeted a person. It's like, well, I mean, you could just log off the internet. It's like, why would I do that? I get paid for it. It was a very honest answer. I might not like the answer. I might not like that they're doing it. But if that's the current game, that seems like a terrible incentive structure. So it's like, okay, I would love to be able to unite people around just a common cause, a common interest. I don't know how to do that. So that's why I'm kind of doing the science thing to avoid the ulterior, which is, what's the one category of folks that everybody hates? The assholes. Pardon my French. Apologies to the French. Because who are the quote unquote assholes? The people that we don't like. Now that might be relative, because one person's friend that's being an asshole or a dick might be another person's hero per se. That's the thing. It might be very relative to what's going on. But I just look at it, and this I also kind of got this from Lex Friedman at one bit, because he was on Joe Rogan at one point, and people were kind of talking about like getting hatred, and Joe Rogan's like, I just started ignoring just social media. It's like, I'll post something once in a while for like a fight, but that's basically it. And then Lex is like, no, but I interact, but it's a pain. And like he would start like telling people like where he did jujitsu in like Boston or something. It's like, Lex, do you listen to yourself? It's like you're telling people to essentially meet yourself outside of your gym to like fight you or something like that. I may or may not have clipped that for a future video because I was going to add that to a dueling video, but I put that on the shelf because I'd rather try to solve it with science. But at one point, I'm like, oh my God, I think that he's right. People just don't like the people because back in the day, like you hear these terms called hate speech and stuff. What is that? Has the Supreme Court recognized it in the States? I don't know. But I had a very conservative friend and I listened to a very progressive video on YouTube within about a week of each other. And then I heard a term come up that they both agreed upon. And it was, we used to call those fighting words. I'm like, oh my God, two people that seem totally opposite on almost everything said, we used to call these fighting words. Well, I'm like, well, yeah, I say if there are consenting adults with unresolved just hatred in their heads and hearts for their fellow creature, I say we legalize dueling, let them fight under the doctrine of bodily autonomy and engage in mortal combat. Your body, your choice.
Yeah.
And the terrible thing is probably sudden surge in violence. I think there'd be more politeness on the internet because why do we say things on the internet? There's no consequence, more or less.
I think that's reminiscent of, I think it was von Clausewitz, a military strategist who had said, it was either him or maybe it was Lao Tzu or sorry, Sun Tzu from The Art of War. I forget, but that war is like the last step in diplomacy. It's like the last diplomatic resource.
Avoid violence at all costs. I just don't like seeing innocent people get hurt. So I'm just like,
you see what I mean? Like you're kind of paradoxical in that sense. You're saying, well, if we do allow the possibility, at the very least, the real possibility that you can get your ass kicked, that
combat sports are legal in all 50 states, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember when I was a kid and growing up in Canada, if there was like a street fight, no one called the cops for that, and the cops wouldn't put you in jail for that. Nowadays, you tell someone they're an asshole, and they tell you, you gotta, I don't know, apologize.
Community services. Well, my thing is, as somebody that's been punched in the face before, I would prefer not to get punched in the face. So it's like, okay, why don't I avoid that conflict in the first place? Let me try to reason my way through it, or at least give some semblance of human dignity to somebody that may be having a rough time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but like you said, it can get pretty philosophical. You have to define what it means to be an asshole. I mean, if you're an asshole for challenging someone's ideas, then that's not productive, right?
No, I mean, you can give criticism. I mean, if you're going to attack something, attack the idea, not the person.
Yeah.
There are varying degrees in how savage you can be. I mean.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I see in this community as well. I do see some people coming along, and it's usually the people with God complex that really think they're like, the prophet or the second coming kind of, and they'll sometimes do that, the ad hominem, attacking the character of a person. They say, oh, your idea sucks, or you're stupid for not understanding my idea, or whatever. What's your view on that in this community? I'm curious.
As somebody that's never gotten over a personal narcissistic Jesus complex, I mean, I can totally understand what you're saying there, or at least to the best of my ability. I think it depends. Here's the thing: to understand what every other person on the internet is thinking or doing, I mean, I think that's computationally impossible for a human being. It reminds me of, what was it, like Bruce Almighty or something, when basically he becomes like, quote unquote, God for a day, and then he goes to Yahweh and he's checking his email and everything, because we had a YouTube mail or Yahoo mail, and all of a sudden he clicks it. It's like, you have like 5 billion unanswered prayers or something like that. He clicks it, all of a sudden all these voices pop into his head. I'm like, oh my God, is like an infinite fractionality of that, like the internet? Is this what social media is? Because that would explain a lot. That would drive me totally crazy. And I'm already probably kind of crazy. That's probably confirmed. But my thing is, I'm like, okay, we only go based upon the information we have. One of the biggest things I got from Sam Harris was like, well, if you have new information and this is good information, why wouldn't you update your model? Like, update your priors and stuff. It's like, we had our priors, we've learned since then. Well, why wouldn't we just factor this into the model? Because if we're going to believe in data or whatever that is, depending on if it's, I don't know, I don't even know what a materialist versus non-materialist really is, but it's like that kind of sounds like what might be going on here. It's like if we're basically writing our own stories, we have our own personal narratives. I also kind of pull in the Stephen Wolfram card of it's kind of probably we're all right if we are all part of the same system. If we do have our own perspectives, however somebody wants to characterize their hero's journey, their villain's arc, whatever it may be, it's like I say, as long as you're not hurting another person, it's like you can conceptualize it really any way you want. Don't harm children. Um,
But
just
okay, so wait, because like what you did there again, you go off on these tangents that sometimes someone might be carried away and they think this isn't relevant, but it is. And what you just taught, your reference to Bruce Almighty was fucking brilliant, because this is what I see. I see a bifurcation of some people who get stuck in the God complex, not from Bruce's side, who's on Yahoo Mail, but from Morgan Freeman's side, who they actually think that they're God, and so they'll end up being the assholes. And then you have like the Bruces who like are kind of playing with the power of God, but they realize I have to listen to the information. So like Tyler Goldstein, for example, I had an interview with him recently as well, and he did say like, no, I definitely don't think I'm the Messiah. And he also has a worldview where he realizes, well, we have to listen to everyone, and that there may be this kind of reality where there are different facets, and all these facets are required or valid on some level. So there can't be like this one, at least he's a little bit more humble in that way. So it's like Bruce after he gets hit by the truck, you remember, and he realizes, oh, no, not the truck, sorry, it's like Bruce after he realizes that after he loses his girlfriend Jennifer Aniston, and then he realizes, I have to help people, I have to use these powers for good, and not bash people over the head with my ego. So I see like both in this community. Like you seem to be that, like the Bruce, and then I see others that are like Morgan Freeman. um they think they're Morgan Freeman anyway.
to be fair, who wouldn't want to be Morgan Freeman?
That's
I mean,
true.
that voice is just mwah. But
Well,
see, to be fair, I think bifurcation is kind of actually a natural thing within just reality itself. Like that actually may be a literal or hyperbolic statement. I'm unsure which. Maybe even both of those. But what I kind of see is, to be fair, and I think Roy and both Tyler said this. I've heard them say something along the lines of "You are God." Now, when they say that, the particular, maybe metaphorically, they're speaking of we're all part of God, or whatever word you want to use. The one, whatever is almighty, all-knowing, and omnipresent. I mean, I think that was Jordan Peterson's version of God. I'm like, okay, well, we're talking about the one, whatever that one might be. I'm like, I can totally groove with that. But I feel like that would mean that we're all a faction. If we're going to go by some of the scripture where it's like, all right, and humanity was built within the image of God. Well, I'm like, if I just take that statement on its face, I'm like, well, that means we're all part of an infinite faction, if you would, or a perhaps countable finite faction of the divine. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good story. I'm like, do I know what that means? No, not at all. But I'm like, let me try to do some science, explore some of the numbers and everything, and if it works out, if it lines up with stuff, cool. If it doesn't, it's been a heck of a ride.
Well, so like this, I like that view, and I agree with Tyler and Roy on that. Like, that's the cool thing. Like, they're so. Tyler said something interesting the other day in the interview I did. He said you have to be confident. Like that is being humble, being confident in what you know, and saying this is what I know. Um, and so when I try to explore the why there's a bifurcation between those who have a bit of a conflation with like, okay, we are all parts of God and God at the same time, that kind of like double thing. But they'll conflate it to believe that their personal like self is the universal self, the God. And so like that bifurcation isn't necessarily bad. Like I'm just saying, I'm just curious, like why do some people fall on one side where they're just like, I want to take in as much information as possible and not identify with being like the all powerful, and then others just say my information is the all powerful. I don't need all the other information out there on it. It all has to connect into my system somehow. So like I was just curious about why, not necessarily making a statement as to which one is good or bad, because I think for God all things are good. There's a reason that there are assholes out there, and that or sometimes that I can come out and be an asshole or whatever as well. So it exists within the individual as well. So I don't know. There maybe isn't a straightforward answer, but I wanted to explore that a little bit. So thanks for letting me vent and try to explore those ideas out loud.
Oh no, man, no. Thank you. I see. I don't know. It's like I ain't the boss of nobody, so I kind of feel like it's not any of my business what a particular individual believes. If they're going to attempt to impose something upon other individuals, especially without due process, I feel like then it might become in my interest to maybe speak up or say something about that. But I mean, I'm a fairly kind of agnostic. I mean, then again, I make the claim the more and more I learn about science, the more I believe in God, because it's like you said, it's well, what is God? It's like I don't know and everything, but if I just conceptualize it as well, it's the one. What is that? That which is omnipotent, that which is all knowing, and that which is omnipresent. I'm like, that seems like a pretty good definition to me, and at least some of the things I'm exploring, those characterizations may be present. I don't know.
Well, see, what you just talked about is, I love. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that so that people can like see exactly why paradoxism is what I subscribe to, because there's a philosopher, I think it was Epicurus, or was it anyway? He created a bit of a, not a paradox, but a logical, let's say,
Logical fallacy or something.
yeah. Okay. So he said, if God is all like omnipotent, then whence cometh evil? Like, why, if God's all powerful, why is he not, like, why is there evil, right? And but let me get the quote, because I always fuck it up. And actually, I'm just going to share the screen so we can read it together, because this is a great way to start to end this. I know you have to go soon. Let's go entire screen, share, and let's look at it. I look for it together. Is God omnipotent, omnipresent? Quote. Forget.
You're a brave man showing an open search bar.
Yeah, I am a brave. I have nothing to hide.
I gave up on trying to hide myself a long time ago. That's why the last person that's like, memes, I know who you are. It's like, well, it's not like you couldn't have reverse searched my my YouTube channel, my Twitter, and my Facebook. It's like, dang it, memes, that would have saved me so much time. I mean, if you want to come up, just let me know if you're bringing the beer or pizza. That's all.
Yeah, Epicurus. That's right. So I think I was right about that. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able to prevent it but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then why do we have evil in the world? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? So this idea that you can have omnipresence, omnibenevolence, and omnipotence all at the same time is a fallacy, or you could say that it's a paradox, that those are possible and they break the laws of logic. And that's why, so that's going back to my infinity limited equation, right? Where I'm thinking, okay, it's so powerful that it breaks human logic. And of course it would. Human logic is limited. But if you want to go beyond our logic, you have to accept that God doesn't give a fuck. It can be omnipresent, omnibenevolent, and omnibenevolent, present, and potent. And it indeed is, whatever that is. Now you could call it energy or God or that one thing, but ultimately that's where I think scientists, material reductionists, atheists, agnostics, and the religious, esoteric, and so on, and spiritual, everyone agrees that we're all looking for one. some conceptualization of something that is one, that cannot be divided into two and start to have all that complexity where we can fight over it. Just one fucking thing. And I think the conceptualization of that one thing we can all agree on is infinity. But and that's my way of looking at it. But everyone has their own path to it. Maybe this equation that and you're dealing with defined structure constants. I at one point thought, yeah, maybe 1/137 is God. Who knows? But do you see what I'm talking about? Whereas this is how I see the possibility for compatibility between people is actually possible, because God is manifesting all of these different contradictory views. Because for him or it's not contradictory.
I think you're doing a really important thing right here, James. And you're doing it with love and passion. And that's one of the things I think we really need here. And to just touch upon what you were just sharing there, I don't have an answer to that. My best initial approximation is, at least as human beings, or at least for me, like without contrast, I'm blind. That's the thing. If you're like adjusting a TV screen and you turn up all the gamma and it's a blinding whiteness, it's like you ain't gonna see anything. You turn it down all the way and all you have is like a pitch blackness, not really going to be able to determine any contrast there. So it's those different shades of gray, those different colors, those different wavelengths, or well, literally wavelengths that are permeating like our conscious awareness and everything. See, I think that's how we can tell different stuff and things about each other. And I got a lot of hope, and I like what you, Daniel, and a lot of the other folks, Tyler included, hope to get him on at some point, are working on. And I would totally love to see where this goes. It sounds like you're looking to have a mini Tonanza going on there. Maybe a toe clipping Anza or something like that. Maybe a pinky toe Anza. We could totally meme it into reality. My thing is, we're on the internet. We can have a lot of fun. And if we believe we're working on important things, it's like, all right, let's get some folks interested in it. And it doesn't need to be all a blah, blah, blah. Here's this equation. Here's this thing. Here's this crazy monstrosity of an equation here on Wolfram Alpha. Not that there's anything wrong with monstrous equations, but it's like, if you can have some coolness to it, perhaps some, I don't know, just a little pizzazz, maybe a little bit of polish, maybe have a little fun, be engaging, acknowledging that other people exist. I think that's bringing folks into the fold, especially if they've got some good ideas. We can learn from each other and we rise together.
It's fucking beautiful, memes. Because here's the thing. I asked you a very specific, very clear question. Was that, is it possible for everyone to be compatible and just be on the same page and manifest beautiful things? And your answer was, I don't know, which is ultimately the translation of that is humility. And afterwards, you proceeded to talk about, here's what humility would look like. We come together, we explore stuff, we have fun, and we don't try to like look for that compatibility necessarily like you're doing, James. but you know what I mean? Like enjoying, like manifest, because here's the beauty of it. Regardless of if we all agree and we're all on the same page, what's next? Sharing our shit and like living together and having a fun time, like, sharing life, sharing that beauty, that truth. And that's what you're about, man. I figured it out. I have put my thumb on who Memes of Destruction is, I believe.
Uh-oh. I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, that's good, dude. See, that's you're leading by example. You're literally, like, to me, that feel like I'm genuinely passionate and feeling like quite euphoric here. Because I think, like, to me, I was wondering, like, hey, James, you feel so confident and certain, like you can start living your life now. Because you know, for you at least, what the truth is, and you're happy doing your little things. But what does it look like to enjoy that truth? Well, it looks like memes. It looks like what memes is doing, and what I'm doing with memes right now.
Don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with belief. It has to do with just enjoying. Like you said, I don't know, and it doesn't matter.
Life is an adventure, man. They always say it's like, well, treat life like you're in a movie or something. It's like, okay, if I'm going to believe that to be true, why wouldn't you want to have the best movie you can? Because we literally can have our own freaking movie now. Like this discussion we're doing, it's literally on the internet, or it will be on the internet once it gets uploaded and everything. But at that point, if somebody ever wants to do a documentary about the different folks that were doing these different things back in the day, it's like you look back in the day, a lot of folks, whether physicists or some of the great thinkers of the past, you used to have to write a letter and put it in the post, hope it makes it over to another country far over an ocean in a land far away. The person would need to receive that letter. They would actually need to read that letter and not just toss it in the fire and actually respond. And then the same process, rinse, lather, and repeat. Like, dude, we got the internet right now. We got the internet. We got great technology. We got a lot of great people. It's like, there should be no reason why we can't figure this out. And I'm going to claim we can figure this out probably a lot sooner than some people think.
I'm just happy that whether we figure it out or not, that it is possible to enjoy it afterwards. Because I think I see the example in what you're doing with your channel and everything. So, thanks for that.
I'm having a good time. That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
if you treat life like it's going to be an arduous grind, probably it's going to feel like an arduous grind. If you turn into a game where it's like, I played a lot of World of Warcraft, server first level 80 Death Knight. I drank a lot of Diet Pepsi and lacked a lot of sleep for that long weekend. But towards the end, it kind of got to be a grind. But a lot of time, I was just having fun in that game. It's like I would just talk to people in Ventrilo or TeamSpeak. Some of the smaller instances, not even like the really big high level stuff. It's like you're just having a good time with like a group of people that you enjoy spending time with, having a little bit of banter, poking a little bit of fun, but doing it with love and respect in order to accomplish a goal. I just see this as an extension of that. It's just another game.
And
Let's do our
the
best.
essential ingredient for that is humility. You gotta be humble, which is, it's great that it's very synchronous in my life right now, because for the last 2-3 months since I met the Toe community and since my theory just kind of exploded and I started to write the book and all this stuff, I had some really esoteric, like really spiritual experiences that are really wild, and I've had to battle the ego a lot. And the essential ingredient is always humility. And here it's coming back in my face all the time in ways that are so nurturing and helpful. And I realize, I don't even need to, like, it is an egotistical thing to try to believe that you can be humble by yourself. It's like, no, man, let it go. Let God, give you the humility that you need. Except that, you don't have to spread the word or, make sure people understand your work. Just like enjoy it, have a good time. Don't let your ego be into it, and be humble about it. So I think you're quite synchronous in this very moment for me.
Everyone loves to buy. Nobody likes to be sold. I spent about a decade in corporate sales, man. It's like that was one of the smartest things a corporate sales trainer ever taught me online. Because I feel that to be true. It's like nobody really likes to be overly preached to. Whereas if you're putting out something, it's a decent product. And if by happenstance you happen to be right or have enough of an approximation of being right, I mean, the truth is the ultimate defense, whatever the truth might be. See, for me, I'm also going to give you +5 points for quoting a wise Disney princess. And yeah, why wouldn't you just let it go? Let it go. Oh, this is why I don't sing. This is why I don't sing.
Which princess are you talking about?
Oh, Elsa. Let it
Elsa.
go. Let it go. The cold never bothered me anyway. One of my exes used to sing it. It's
Yes.
Oh my God, you're so young. Oh, now I feel old.
No,
I'm
man,
jealous.
I don't know. I'm 31. How old are you?
I never watched Frozen, to be fair.
Is
Apparently, I
that,
think somebody in Japan divorced her husband because he had never seen Frozen.
yeah, so I'm like 90s Disney stuff. You can,
Yeah, me too.
talking about Lion King and Snow White and shit, and I'm like, I know what you're talking
I
about.
listen to it when I go out on runs and stuff. It's part of my playlist. I also play it at work when I'm with a bunch of whole warehouse workers, and then when I get them to start singing along with Disney tunes with me, I feel like I've accomplished my goal.
Yeah. But so to go back to that let it go thing, what is it that you have to let go? Not the message, but the messenger. And this is what I learned recently. I met this really cool guy. There's a small town here called Minca in Colombia. And I'm in Santa Marta at the moment. And I kind of live there. I go back between the two. And he told me, he sat there, he's like, James, forget about the people. It's like, forget about the messenger. It's the message. just focus on the message, man. And anyone around you has a message to give you. You take the message, you leave the bullshit, and you stop fixating on the person, whether that person is you or another person. But if we all equally, or we all have the ability to bring a message to each other, as long as we're open-minded and we can accept that message and not transfix ourselves on the messenger, be like, okay, this person brought me truth, therefore that person must be the person. It's like, forget the messenger. I mean, if God is everything and everything is God, then everyone is the messenger always. You just have to recognize the truth that they have to bring you, you know. And I really got to say thanks a lot for bringing your message in the way that you've done it, which is by example. And that's ultimately what I want to get to, is an understanding of why is memes so popular and likable? Like why and how, like what makes them tick, and what's important here? And I definitely feel like I've extracted that. So thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for helping decode me.
Hey, if you feel that I have an accurate description, then I'm happy. I'm even happier.
I'm still trying to parse it myself.
Yeah, well, there it is, man. That's my interpretation of memes of destruction. Now, before we go, because it is coming to a close and you have some D&D to play, what is it that you would add, or what do you think is important to say in general? Because I think there will be some people from the TOE community that's going to watch, and hopefully from your community as well. So after everything we've just talked about, is there anything that comes to mind or to heart that you want to express?
Just have fun. That's the thing. It's like, especially if you want to put content out there in whatever form it might be, whether it's a video, a blog post, an email list, a letter, whatever it might be. It's like, whatever you do it awesomely. It's like, have fun with it. I mean, I'm not saying don't put in the work. Yeah, totally put in as much work as you feel capable of. If you need some help, reach out. If somebody doesn't get back to you, maybe try them again. Maybe don't consistently spam them and everything. That can be kind of creepy at times, and a quick way to get yourself blocked. I say this as somebody that's maybe a wee bit spectrum-y myself, at least according to what ex-Mrs. Meme said, and she was an internationally certified board behavior analyst, so I think she knew what she was talking about. Basically, just realize that you might have a good idea. You might be right. You might be absolutely right. But if you don't have the ability to communicate that message with our fellow creature, how's humanity supposed to be able to try to get ahead? That's the thing. You might have the best idea in the world, but if you came off like an overly creeper on the internet, a lot of people probably are going to miss the message. Just saying, just my opinion as a dude on the internet. So, yeah, just have fun and just try to be respectful as best you can.
All right, guys. So there it is. You've heard it from Memes himself. Just have fun. That's what leveling up means. Level up by having fun. To me, that's what it means now. I'm like, level up. Okay, have fun. I mean, when you level up in a video game, you can only do it by having fun, by playing the game. So there it is, guys. I'm going to end the recording. Stick around for a sec, Memes, and we'll chat a little bit more. But guys, thanks for listening, and really hope. I would want people to comment on this one. It'd be great. All right. Ciao, guys.
Let us know what you think. Peace out.